There we are. We are live with Tony Maritato.
Got it.
Maritato. Fun to say. Fun to say. Italian? Is it an Italian?
It is. It is Italian. My dad was Italian. My mom was Colombian from South America.
Awesome. Awesome. Did you pick up any of the Colombian cooking or Italian cooking?
I love cooking. I cook every day, every meal I cook. I take a little bit of inspiration from both of them. I can speak a little Spanish. There was a time where I actually spoke enough Spanish that I would dream in Spanish. Now it's all gone. I can't even communicate.
It's if you don't use it, you lose it. It's what
It's
they
true.
say. Yeah, I still speak Russian to my mom. I call my mom almost every day back in
Wow.
Brooklyn. And yeah, that's about as much practice as I get, though. Not a lot of use for Russian anywhere else. But yeah,
Did
very
you
cool.
grow up in Brooklyn?
Yeah, yeah. From the age of 3 to pretty much adulthood, and I got my doctorate in physical therapy at the age of 24 in Brooklyn. And then I shortly thereafter left the coop. But yeah.
Wow. Okay. I was born in Long Island, New York. My dad grew up in Brooklyn. I haven't been back for 25, 30 years, probably longer, but
You're missing out. You're missing out on some amazing. Always about the food there. Always
it
about the
is.
food.
I miss the
Um,
black and white cookies and a couple other things.
I'm sure you don't even know what you're missing. It's I always tell
Cannolis.
people yeah, cannolis, there's just so much. The L&B Spumoni Gardens, if you do go, I would say that's your number one stop to change how you think about pizza. If you're not familiar, it's a Sicilian slice that again changes people's minds
Wow.
about pizza. It's been in a lot of movies, TV shows, all that stuff, and yeah, I'm pretty when you leave, and again, no disrespect to the Coloradans here, but food is not the number one thing we do here in Colorado, but we're here
Right.
for different reasons. Speaking of New York, one of our mutual connections, Dave Kittle, who runs around New York, runs a very successful physical therapy practice there. Just posted some very controversial stuff on the Twitter. I think between him and Jimmy McKay on PT Pinecast reposting it, I do think it's close to 100,000 views, because I think Jimmy's also had like 15 to 20,000 views. So we're getting close to 100,000. And for anyone not familiar, I'm going to do my best to summarize it. It's Dave's a pretty good looking, in shape guy. He's in the mirror at a hotel and he's flexing. And he posed the thought experiment. What does the physical therapist need to be physically fit in order to be able to charge something in the range of $250 to $400 per session? And just said agree or disagree. Adding the photo of himself might have led people to think one way or the other. But I'd love to get your thoughts, Tony, on and for anyone not familiar with Tony, little background is Tony's kind of one of the thought leaders, I'm going to say, if you can take that. I know you're not good with compliments and any of the content you put out there. Someone gives you a compliment, you seem to blush and try to brush over it. But I think we got to give you your dues, give you your golf clap at least. And is that an Ohio thing? Being humble in Ohio there, Midwest?
I don't know. I hope it is.
So yeah, Tony is again one of those thought leaders, has a lot of different things going on. I hope to touch on a few of them, if not all of them. I don't know if we could touch on all of them. You got so many things going on, but that's a little bit of background. But with that background, yeah, tell us what you think about Dave's response, and a little more background. There is Tony, Dave Kittle, and Jimmy McKay, three of the leading voices. Again, I'd say three of the big thought leaders in the space right now that I definitely admire and make sure I tune in any chance I get. You guys have a weekly, is it now twice a week, morning kind of show?
It is, and it's incredible because it's one of those things that I'm sure you experience too. It's like you're screaming into the void. You have no idea if anybody hears you. I think one of the challenges everybody is facing right now is it's so fragmented. So like Jimmy will share on Facebook, on Instagram, on all these different platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, and you don't really know. You get a couple people here and there. You have no idea who's listening. I genuinely, until you said you were listening, I didn't even think we had 2 or 3 listeners, truthfully.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? These guys are great. We're going to share ideas. We're going to talk. And if it comes across anyone's desk, awesome. Talking about Dave Kittle. So I'm not on Twitter, but I did hear him. He told us about what he had posted. Now, of course, I think anybody watching this knows, like, you post something out like that, you're looking for engagement, you're looking to poke the bear. I've done it plenty of times myself, and he did. And when I went back and I looked at what he actually said,
Mhm.
um, it's not as bad as it sounds. So he said, quote, "A physical therapist should be physically fit if they want to charge $250 to $400 a visit." Keep in mind, Dave's in New York. He's right downtown. He's in Brooklyn, Manhattan, that whole area. So $250 is like $2.50 to us. And then he said, and to get patients to invest in their health and wellness. Agree or disagree? And I do think, like you said, the picture, I didn't realize Dave was as fit as he is. I think the picture pushed it over the edge, because so much of the negative sentiment that came out from that was therapists basically saying you could be out of shape, you could be overweight, you could be all of these other things. You shouldn't have to, sell your body or whatever. I know Dave. I've known Dave forever. He was the first person to interview me on a podcast like this, like forever ago. He's a good guy. I know he's not trying to like be derogatory in any way. So he's talking about brand. He's talking about image. Nike has a brand. Starbucks has a brand. You have a brand. So you're just playing to that. And I agree. Like, you have to have some consistency in there. And all he's saying is you need to be fit, not say, yeah, Bo knows. He's not saying you need to be strong. You need to have 22-inch biceps. You don't need, he's not saying any of that. He's just saying you need to be fit. You need to be healthy if you want to get your patients to buy in with whatever it is. So when he first told me the other day, I was like, no, I totally disagree. You don't have to have any of that stuff, but the more I thought of it, the more I looked at it, the more I read the engagement around it. I was like, yeah, for what he's saying, you're right. This is what he needs to sell his brand. What do you think? I saw your reply, but I didn't quite understand what you were thinking.
Mine was definitely tongue in cheek, and I was joking that if I'm in the gym, then I can't be becoming a better clinician. That I was kind of
Yeah,
tongue in
that's what
cheek
he
that
said.
you can't really be if and you look at someone like that. And again, I have another podcast, the Demand Better podcast, with a personal trainer friend in New York City as well. And he charges a pretty penny as well, but and he's in very good shape. He's in his 50s. He's in excellent shape. And I think that to the whole point, I think it's been just and speaking to Dave offline and without sharing too much of any of that, and I don't think there's anything secretive by any means. I don't want to make that sound in any kind of bad way, but I do think that he meant it as a thought experiment. And, as I'm referring to you guys all as like kind of thought leaders in that sense. I think the way he phrased it was very specific, and most of the people responding are like, are you saying I'm not they're taking it personally.
Right.
Saying, are you saying I can't do a good job for my patients that are in a nursing home or whatever, because I'm a little out of shape, or I'm really out of shape, or whatever. So I think he phrased it very specifically. I do think the photo made a little, you start to question the clickbait. We joked about clickbait on one of our Facebook threads there, but I do think that he phrased it in a very specific way, that if you're talking to somebody who's willing to pay $400 for personal training or physical therapy session, for anything, what do you need to look like, or what do you need to present to them for them to be willing to make that purchase? Just if how much does that appearance play into it? On top of the fact that if you're staying young and healthy, or look young and healthy, or even old and healthy, no offense, Tony's got some grace. Tony's on the older side. For anyone not watching, they're just listening. And I always like to joke, like, I'm 72 years old. And so I look pretty good for my age. But yeah, so to answer the thought and finish that ramble, is my biggest thought is, I think that it helps to look a certain way to market to a certain type of person. Again, right. I was in that New York City space. The physical therapist I worked with, Charlie Weingroff, charged $500. He has a celebrity name. He was working with, Hugh Jackman and that Drive 495, if anyone's familiar with that. He was helping those guys get ready for the movies, along with celebrity trainer Don Saladino. They were kind of partnered up there. So Charlie Weingroff was able to charge $500, and I don't think anyone really blinked an eye. And if anyone did, and you have this gap, and you probably, people who do charge in that $200 range, like, they might be separating themselves in a lot of ways. And a lot of the people who pay them $200 are probably willing to pay them $400. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure you're giving them that value. And so some people don't value money as much. So it's a fascinating thought experiment again. So I'm going to stop rambling since I can go on. I have a lot more thoughts. But
no, it's absolutely true. Like, it gets the conversation going, and that's what we need. I do think there's insecurity that we see. And that's what I said the other morning. I was like, anybody who gets offended by that, anybody who gets genuinely upset by that, I generally think it's their own insecurities coming out. They feel inadequate. They feel uncomfortable. I don't care. Like you said, I'm 49. I'm proud. I'm a dad. I'm not as fit as I was today that I was 20 years ago. But even with that, I'm confident. I'm secure. I feel good about my body. I know I'm doing the best that I can with what I've got. I would never feel threatened by something. It's not going to offend me. And I think when it does, it tells me, hey, there's probably a little bit of something going on. What are you freaking out about? What are you insecure about? We see that. I think the saddest part, truthfully, is the outrage in some of the replies about the price, about the $200 to $400. And I always go back to them like, I understand it's a lot of money. I realize that, absolutely. But we're talking about individuals' health. Like, what can any human, especially somebody living in the US, what could you possibly do with that money that's better than investing in your health? If you have food, if you have shelter, if you have clothes on your back, if you have the necessities taken care of, what better investment? I can't put $400 in the stock market and it's going to give me a better return than putting $400 to work for an hour of your time to make me a healthier, better human that's going to last for the next 20 to 40 years. And so I think within our profession, we need to have these conversations about, people always want to get paid more. They want insurance to pay us more. They want to earn more. They want to, quote, know their value. But then they freak out as soon as somebody says, hey, I charge $400 for an hour of my time. It's just this weird dichotomy that we have going on.
Yeah, I think there's the idealisms, and there's the arguing on Twitter where people jump to and call Dave ableist for posing a question, not even making a statement. If he had made the statement and tried to say, like, yeah, come at me, like, I'm saying this, he's saying, like, what do you guys think? Is this something? And again, it could have been phrased in a much more a much different way, which I sometimes feel like I do, and it doesn't get any traction. And versus starting that conversation. And again, I saw all those comments of like, who's charging that much? Like, I'm lucky if I charge $100, or something like that. So it's interesting to, again, start that conversation, make sure things are moving in that direction. So it's again, fascinating piece of the puzzle.
So talking about that thought experiment and bringing it over into what we were talking about before we hit record, I think people watching, and I know I'm going to share this podcast, I'm going to promote this. I know people want to know, like, what is your goal? Because I want to hear it. What is your goal with this podcast? Who's the audience? Who are you speaking to and creating this content for? Are you doing it for therapists? Or are you doing it for the general public? Because a lot of the ones that I've watched of yours, I would say it's great health advice. It's health advice for the general population. You talk about all sorts of things, from pelvic floor to nutrition to stress management. Those aren't necessarily therapist topics. So now I'm curious, who are you trying to reach with this information?
Yeah, I'd say that's the main. Well, I'll be honest. I'm a little inspired by Tim Ferriss, and say, I'm doing it for myself. I want to have great conversations with thought leaders like yourself. Where that was the intent. I was like, I just want to be able to have these great conversations with, again, I've known Kelly Starrett as one of my top celebrity guests, whatever. And so, I have his phone number, not to brag, humble brag. But again, I'm not going to be like, hey, Kelly, you want to talk about this thing? Like, he's a busy dude. He was at the White House, a few weeks ago and things like that. But, to be able to say, hey, let's get on a podcast and actually share some insights, go through some of these thought experiments, talk about what's going on. Ultimately, to answer your question more directly, and I appreciate you turning the tables on my own podcast, is that I do think it's a consumer's guide. I'm always trying to get that information. I see a lot of ways that when I have conversations with my patients, in whether it's in an insurance model or cash-based model, I'm having these same conversations. I'm like, I'm always like, I wish I could take this. And this is kind of a lot of the same stuff you do with your Total Therapy Solutions YouTube page. And, I think that's a resource that needs to get out there more. I feel the same way about, I was going through some of your videos before this podcast, and you have something about total knee replacement and what to expect. And you're talking about different types of anesthesia and things like that, and procedures that people can expect. And, it might only have 69 views or something like that. And that one I think was only posted a few days ago. So maybe that's not your norm. And again, anyone in the physical therapy space, I always really like to throw these caveats of like, if you are in the physical therapy space, you want to talk about marketing, go check out Tony on Facebook. That's where he shares a lot. I think you have some great, it's the Passion to Profits, right? Group. And that's the one. Did you close that off?
I did, and then I reopened it because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no direction and no purpose. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to shut it down for right now. The people that are in it could stay in it. And over about a year's time, I kind of figured, okay, now I know what I want to do with this. Now I know where this community is going. I understand what the community needs. So then we opened it back up. That's when I brought Jimmy in, and I was like, hey, he is like the king of podcasts. I'm more focused on YouTube. There's not a lot of crossover, but we bring the two of us together, and I think we could add value to what people are looking for.
Yeah, and I think Donovan Melendez here commented. I think he's referring to the physical fitness, maybe. Looking physically fit. You're going to get judged for your physical appearance, and that's just the nature of the beast. I think within physical therapy, it's probably a little bit less of a problem. But yeah, coming back to your thought there. So you did open that up. I do think people should go check out Tony if you are a physical therapist. But yes, for the consumer, my other podcast, the Demand Better podcast, that's our tagline, is we are the consumer's guide for the health and fitness space. And we're trying to say demand better from chiropractors, demand better from physical therapists, from personal trainers. And we're saying, this is the nonsense we see. We're going to show you how the sausage is made. And, you shouldn't be victim to meeting your deductibles and understanding cash-based versus, your out-of-network expenses, and kind of going into some of those details. But yes, we try to phrase it in that way. Here on the Bonos Health, I'm just trying to have good conversations. I did have it as Bonos Stuff. And it was even more of a big conversation where, like I said, I was just trying to have good conversations with anyone. And, I had high school classmates. I went to a very big high school, Brooklyn Tech. We were talking about Brooklyn a little bit before, but where, I would talk to somebody who's in HR, and I would try to connect it to health and fitness. But I said, let's be a little more focused around health and fitness, and again, try to provide kind of global information. And it's the same thing. I see you niching down on something like the total knee, and it's so easy to understand how that, the niches are in the riches. And I've definitely struggled with that. Like, I know that if I've niched down on ACL, I had my own ACL. I think I could definitely niche down on that. There's definitely people out there doing it. But, I definitely feel confident when I'm in the clinic and I get an ACL patient. I'm like, you're in good hands, my friend, because this is one of my specialties. But then to take that and turn it into a brand, it feels limiting to me. And that might be my own self-limiting beliefs. But yeah, so to answer your question, I'm sure you had a few thoughts. It looks like I can see the wheels turning. But to answer your question, ultimately my goal here is to, provide as much good information about these kind of specific topics. And again, I want to learn as much as I can along with the folks out there, and share and try to clear up any misconceptions or confusions or myths that exist. Because again, this health and fitness space is definitely just complicated. And, we are in a content economy, right? I don't know if I'm not going to give you credit for that, but I know that's kind of what you're talking about a lot. And so, could I have better thumbnails? Could I have a better title? We joked about that coming into this. Absolutely. And it is a shame to not have that, but kind of what you said about your Facebook group. I kind of said, let's keep doing this.
Right.
And if somebody nice enough, like Tony's able to help me improve something along the way, or if there's a nice IT person out there, or computer or website or whoever, marketing person can help me say, you know, hey, why don't you change this? And you might get, you know, 3 times more views. Or why don't you say something controversial like Dave just did and get 100,000 views? And I'd be very curious. I don't know if he tracked it. I don't know if that was his intention to see, did it improve his Twitter followers? I
asked him about that today. I asked him. So Dave had mentioned Nick Huber. Nick Huber had talked about, you know, he puts out 1 or 2 posts, not a ton. They're highly inflammatory, but they're genuine opinions. Like, he's not making stuff up just to inflame the public. These are his real feelings on that. And it blows up the post, and he gets tons of new followers. And then, of course, those turn into business leads. And that's how he grows his public following. So Dave had mentioned that I did talk to him about his followers. His followers have grown since this post. I don't know what his normal growth is, but, you know, social media in general, whether we're talking about YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, any of them, it's a language. It really is. We're all learning this new language, you know, and as we learn it and we understand it, we can use it to communicate ideas better. And so when you talked about me niching down into total knee replacement, I don't know your background. I've watched some of your exercise videos. Like, I was a strength and conditioning specialist. I was down in Sarasota, Florida. I worked with amazing coaches that were training athletes. I did time at IMG Academy and Voluntary Academy. Like, nothing I have is original. Everything I have is stolen from the greatest minds out there in what was like sports medicine and performance back in early 2000s, late 1990s. Vern Gambetta, Ron Lansky, all of these guys that were just incredible. That's how I learned to do Olympic lifting and really do all of that. And so I learned the language back then. I learned how to communicate. I learned how to share ideas. Now we're in a new economy. Now we're in a new environment. I'm learning a new language. And so you had mentioned kind of a fear of niching down. And I know a lot of therapists say that. They're like, well, I don't only want to do this. I don't want to get pigeonholed into just this. And I always tell them, like, look, every piece of content, patient-facing content you see come out of my world, it's all knee replacement. I probably don't even do 20% of knee replacement in my clinic for the caseload for the company. I still get every referral imaginable. I turn a lot of them away because I don't want to do low back pain. I don't want to do sciatica. I don't want to do anything neuro related. But the idea is, if you can target that communication, you can now start to build that community, build that tribe. My total knee replacement channel, it does like 6 or 7 million views a year right now, and it continues to grow. Separately, I've got a Medicare billing channel for clinicians where I'm trying to take them from just Medicare content to, look, this is how you grow your business. This is how you gain traffic. This is how you do SEO for your website, stuff like that. I've got my Choose PT First channel, which is more of kind of a variety channel. And where 2 years ago, if you would have said, I want to do a podcast and I want to interview a whole bunch of different therapists and talk about a bunch of different topics, I would have said, don't you dare, because it's going to be a waste of time and nobody's going to get to see it, because that's not the way the social platforms work. But today, for the first time, I feel like the language is evolving again. And now the YouTube platform, which is one of my favorites, I don't have to have a channel just on knee replacement. Now the platform is good enough that it identifies the video. And if the video is about rotator cuff repair, it'll put that video in front of people who want to see information about rotator cuff repair. And if I put a knee replacement video next to it on the same channel, the algorithm will not share that with people who wanted to see videos about rotator cuff repair. So it's gotten that sophisticated. It understands what's in the background of the video. So I do a lot of recording here. I'm at home. Probably not the best thing. I should record in my clinic. You do recording in your gym, your clinic. The YouTube algorithm can see what's in the background, and it will understand that this is a fitness video just because of the exercise equipment in the background. Like, it is incredible how sophisticated the algorithms have gotten. And I don't know how deep you want to go on it, but even to the point where when I go into my YouTube account as a viewer, if I log in on my cell phone at 10:30 at night, YouTube knows I want to see stuff that's going to put me to sleep. If I log in at 9 a.m. in the morning, YouTube knows I want to see stuff that's going to teach me about business while I go for a run. Like, the algorithm will deliver exactly what the viewer wants based on the history, based on the device, based on the time of day, based on all of these factors. It is insane how much it knows about us.
Yeah, it's always fascinating. So I guess, as a content creator, what do you do with that information? And it seems like it's always changing too, right? There was just a change to, was it the Google or YouTube algorithm?
Google's making a huge core update right now. Everybody's watching their analytics. Everybody's watching their websites. You know, I publicly share chooseptfirst.com is my newest, biggest website right now. It's a directory website. And you can see, I mean, when the algorithm change started rolling out, the core update started rolling out this month, you could see the variability, the volatility in the rankings. You can see the traffic numbers. So all you have to do is just kind of sit tight. If you lost a bunch, if you gained a bunch, it doesn't really mean anything. They said it could take up to a month for the core update to finish rolling out. We just have to see where it goes at the end. But again, if I'm a physical therapist, I want to focus on patient care. A lot of your people watching are going to be in that boat. They want to do the best that they can do for the patients they have. I believe the path to that, the path to the freedom to treat patients the way you believe patients should be treated, is to generate as much revenue, as much profit as you can from everywhere else. So for me, yeah, I get paid for patient care, pennies on the dollar, but I get paid a heck of a lot more for YouTube content, for sponsored videos, for teaching digital courses, for doing all of these other things that are built around what I actually do in the clinic. So that stuff gives me the freedom to treat patients independent of, I don't even care if I get paid. I don't care if the copay gets collected or not. I don't care what the insurance does, because it's such a small portion of the total income that comes into the business. But if I didn't have the patient care, I wouldn't have the other stuff. So it's all connected.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
now tell me about your practice. What is your general, like, what's it like to be Bo's patient?
Just got off a call with and this is not necessarily the most typical demographic that I'm targeting, but 15 months postpartum, still has some mom pooch, as she talked about. She actually was looking for personal trainers because, similar to you, I have a background in the fitness side. She didn't necessarily want a physical therapist, so I have the fitness side, personal training side, and she kind of said, hey, it might actually be a benefit that he knows what he's talking about with the body. I have a lot of pelvic health.
Let me interrupt you a second. Let me interrupt you. The funniest thing that still is funny to me, 20 years, 23 years in the profession, I will tell people, they'll come to me, they'll know I'm a physical therapist because their doctor referred me to them. As soon as I tell them, oh yeah, I used to be a personal trainer, my status just rose 3 notches. It's the craziest thing, but it is totally true. When I tell them I used to be a personal trainer, instantly their eyes light up and they're so excited to work with me. Okay, so go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't realize that you still did a lot. Would you say you do more fitness, or is it just all meshed together?
It's definitely a bit of a mesh, but I'd say the majority is fitness forward, as my other friend Josh Funk, Dr. Josh Funk, talks about, and he runs R2P. I just connected him and Dave, actually. I don't know if you saw any of that content.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, so fitness forward. Something that, again, one of those niches that I've thought about and played with, just as a little side note, is connecting with physical therapy clinics. I think it would be easier if I was a personal trainer only, but because I'm a physical therapist, I have approached certain physical therapy clinics and said, hey, when you're discharging this person, I want to be the person you say, hey, if you want to continue to build your fitness, that you should go work with Dr. Bo. I do think there's a little bit of that, like, he's a physical therapist, so is he going to steal our patient the next time they have back pain and they're not going to go see us? So I think I definitely feel that scarcity mindset, unfortunately. So it is interesting. Again, that's a question I'll put a really quick pin in. Back to you. I'll answer yours though, of going back and looking at the landscape of everything. I think I know the answer based on the content you put out, but I'd be very curious of, would you recommend someone in these concepts who wants to work with people the way we do, takes the time, energy, and resources to get a doctorate in physical therapy? That is a question I'm going to put a pin in, unless you want to attack it now. But because you asked your question, I want to address that first. So yeah, working with my business, Fit Care, Wellness, and Physiotherapy, and I played with the names physiotherapy versus physical therapy. You have to have physical in order to, in America anyway. I did find, by having the word physio in there, a lot of foreign folks looking for, they're just instinctively look for physiotherapy. So I get people who are visiting from out of the country because they had an injury and they're looking for physiotherapy, not physical therapy. Some of those interesting, like, again, word plays that we talk about here. So the wellness piece I actually started to put forward because I don't like the term health coaching. That's another piece to this marketing whole thing, right? But I do feel like that's ultimately what I do. I'm a body coach. I like to say, I'm providing you a user's guide to your body. So all these little cliche things that we see out there, I do feel that is what my practice is. I do think my biggest goals are to get somebody as strong as possible. I think anyone who wants to lose weight, I'd work with them on nutrition. I do have nutrition coaching. I usually do that over the course of a year. I want someone to commit for a year. And if I'm working with them only on nutrition coaching, we have weekly calls. And again, there's a big price up front, but then we're doing weekly calls. So you're paying for, 52 times 30 minutes worth of calls per 50 times 52, whatever the math is there, 26 hours of my time. And so, that comes at a bulk rate, all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, we're trying to build habits that I tell folks at the end of 6 months, or especially at the end of the year, you're going to know more than most medical professionals about what you need for your nutrition in that sense. But yeah, in person and online, I also have online offerings, which makes it, again, more all over the place. I try to, again, build people's fitness, and nutritious movement is the term I use there, or I jokingly play off yoga and call it boga. I like to play the marketing there, but ultimately it's little things we could be doing that are getting our bodies moving better. The same way, if you're trying to improve your health and eat, you're going to probably eat more snacks that are healthy, hopefully. So even if you think you're being sold veggie snacks or whatever, and I can talk about why those are not the healthiest things. If anyone knows those little veggie straws in Costco, not the healthiest thing ever, but people start to eat that, or every time they pass by the kitchen, they have a baby carrot or a piece of broccoli or whatever they're having. Ultimately, I'm trying to provide that more mindset shift when it comes to movement. So ultimately, I think I would sum up what I do as I tried this term also, and actually my wife hated it, is a physical retirement specialist. She thought the word retirement was not great. That it's going to make people think like, oh, I'm not ready to retire. I'm a 45-year-old person. Like, I don't want to talk about retirement, but the concept that I'm trying to help you save those annuities. And again, you said exactly the same, language that I'm speaking of. There's very little you can do to invest in that's going to give you a better ROI than putting the right investment into your body. So whether that's, again, a $10,000 package, whether that's a $50,000 package, whether it's a $180 session, whatever that is, I think, when somebody's in front of me like that, I'm trying to say, let's get you all of this stuff that I got in my brain, and I'm going to put it in your brain, and it's going to be a little different for everyone. But I was all over the place. I don't know what you took from that. I got more specifics, but I'm going to cut myself off.
No, I love it. I think you just showed or shared what a lot of us want to do, and I don't think you need to be a physical therapist to do that. I think modern times have kind of broken away from a lot of convention. Even when we talk about like Jimmy McKay is talking about Colorado, and they're dealing with the legal battle where they're trying to renew protections over the term physical therapy as a protected term. I went to PT school because my wife, who wasn't my wife at the time, my business partner at that time, she was a physical therapist. She said, hey, If you want physical therapists to work for you, to trust you, to, like you need to be a physical therapist, because if you're not, and you're an owner of a physical therapy clinic, they are not going to follow you. They're not going to trust you. They're inherently distrustful of a business person. And so I owned the physical therapy clinic before I was a physical therapist. I loved physical therapy, but I really saw no reason to go get those two letters after my name. And I just have those two letters. So the idea for me was, okay, it's a business decision. I'm going to do what I need to do to get the credential, just so that I have that branding behind me so that I could hire great PTs. But that being said, I think you, me, so many of the people you have on this podcast, we're self-motivated, we're learners. Like every single minute of every single day, we're doing something to improve ourselves in some capacity. I don't think the credential is that vital. I think licensure generally holds us back because it limits our ability, our access, our freedom to do the things that we want to do. And I think when you look at, not meaning to offend, when you look at where therapy used to be, we were basically technicians. The doctor would tell us what to do and we'd go do it to the patient. Now I believe we've moved past that. We're coaches, we're leaders. Like, I want to evaluate, I want to assess, I want to use my knowledge of exercise physiology, of muscle building, of all of these other things to figure out not just how to get you back to where you were, because where you were wasn't good enough to keep you from getting injured. I want to take you and push you to where you can be. And the way I kind of talk to my clients about it is, I'm like, look, your life, let's say 100-year lifespan, it's kind of like running a mile on a track. The first lap around the track, you're just getting your feet under you. You're figuring out what's going on. Your second lap, you're kind of figuring out your pace. You're seeing where everybody else is. That third lap, you're planning to make your move for the final lap. That final lap is age 80 to 100. It should be your fastest. It should be your best. You have the most money you're ever going to have. You have the most time, the most knowledge, the most freedom. You should be in the best position to accelerate through that entire final lap until you die, until the race is over. And so I think a lot of us, you included, that's what we want to deliver. That's not what our insurance companies are paying us to do. That's not what the majority of the population is really focused on. And I acknowledge a lot of people are just trying to make ends meet. They're trying to pay their bills. They're trying to manage inflation. They're trying to survive. But there is a sliver that's out there that wants to thrive, that has won the game, and now they just want to take it to the next level, And so I think you kind of said something about the degree and the doctorate and things like that. I don't think it really matters for people like us, because people like us are always going to be pushing to be better, to be more knowledgeable, to improve and deliver that to our clients.
Well, I guess it's the same question sort of that Dave Kittle posed of, do you need to be physically fit to be able to charge that $250 to $400? I guess moving forward, to be able to do this, again, could you establish yourself in just a trainer, and still be able to do all that, and make the living that you want to make, and save I don't know what the current median cost of achieving a doctorate in physical therapy, or the current terminal degree there is. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if it's the terminal degree. Would a PhD be a terminal degree? I don't know.
I think a DPT would be a terminal degree.
I guess that's a terminal degree. Yeah, I have to double check my own language there, but still, that's the standard. I think I graduated 2008. I would say it was well over $100,000 then. I would think we're looking at a minimum $150,000 today in 2024 to get that degree. I know some of the private institutions like a USC for out of state might be close to $500,000. I don't know. But yeah, that's the question.
And even with that stuff, it's like, how much did you actually learn in school compared to what you learned in the clinic with mentors, with other clinicians, with real patients? I've always kind of been lucky, fortunate enough to follow an alternative path. Even when I said I already owned the physical therapy clinic before I went and got my PT degree. But I've talked to people, I'm like, gosh, if I was a student right now and I had freedom and I had time, I would seriously consider going and becoming a foreign trained therapist. Go to
Mm,
the Philippines. I've talked to Mike Chua. It's like $15,000 or $20,000 to
mm,
get your degree and then transition that degree over into the US. I'm not sure what's involved with that, but there are so many other things. And then I still go back to, what is the ultimate goal? You know, if I really want to help somebody, if I want to help somebody achieve specific goals that they have, if I want to help somebody achieve certain things and I want to do it in both, you know, a profitable way for me, but a cost effective way for them, there are lots of ways for me to do that. And it doesn't involve being a doctor of physical therapy.
right.
I can still deliver those outcomes. So, you know, a couple of things that I've been saying lately. I think if somebody does know that they want to own a clinic, don't go to physical therapy school first. Start your business first, because you're going to have to learn how to run a business, which is going to be more important. And then once you have the financial freedom of owning that business, then you could go to PT school. But if you're already in PT school or you're already a physical therapist and you want to start a business, I kind of would say don't quit and go start your business. Start your business while keeping your 40-hour-a-week day job, because it's going to force you to hire people to do the work and have a business model that can be profitable without you being the therapist and doing everything. You know, I'm not sure where you are, Bo, in your kind of career right now, but I know for a while I was the one that had to see every patient, that had to
Mm,
clean every floor, that had to empty every trash can. You know, I was the one doing everything, and it wasn't sustainable. And that's not why I was becoming a business owner. I became a business owner for freedom, to start a family, to be home, like to do things, and then treat patients because I wanted to treat patients, not because I had to treat patients. And so I think that most of the time we're doing it backwards,
right.
and we just need to stop and be like, wait, what do I really want? You know, so go ahead. What are you thinking?
Yeah, yeah, you summed it up well. And I do think to the big question, that original question, to focus myself, because I got a lot of thoughts going on, is yeah, I think that um, the physical therapy degree is not very necessary for most of the ways people want to work with people. And that's that I see that. And I had a girl graduating. She was in the third year of her DPT program. And I noticed on Twitter, she was just like, she complained something about like, and it was during or toward the end of COVID, but they were doing like remote learning. She's like, why is it set up like this? Like, I just want to help people. Like, this is ridiculous that I have to go through this and that they have it set up this way. And so I had her on here. We talked about that whole concept, and it really, that was a big piece where I got to think pretty deeply about that question. And I've heard it many other times as well, but yeah, for me, I'd say, again, a lot of the personal training, a lot of you know, there's definitely overlaps. I see a lot of people, like even Dr. Peter Attia, and you kind of mentioned, you know, those last 2 decades or so of life. He talks a lot about that. I was going to go grab his book. I have it over here on my piano. But Outlive, excellent book, talking about the difference between medicine 2.0 and medicine 3.0. And I do hope that is where we're heading, toward medicine 3.0. Are you familiar with the difference between those
Very.
two? Yeah. Yeah, just for the listener again, medicine 2.0, basically oversimplification, is what we've seen for a long time. You go in, you break your leg, you go in, they can fix that. They can put a cast on it, they can reset it, they can give you some medication, they can eventually do a total knee replacement, whatever that is. Medicine 3.0 is looking at, again, all these biomarkers. I wear a Whoop, you know, different bio trackers and things like that, and then looking at preventative care and saying what is most likely to kill you. He presents it, Dr. Attia presents it kind of exactly how you said it, is like, what do you want to be doing on that last lap of that mile if you're running around the track, you know, that 80 to 100 years old. And if you want to be able to hang and still be able to go up and down stairs pain-free and do all these different things, however old you are now, he mentioned he's 49, I'm 40 years old. You know, we're talking about, where do you want to be 10, 20, 30 years from now? I try to have that conversation with as many of my patients and clients as possible, of saying like, hey, where do you want to be 10 years from now? And if it's this, if you're a woman going through menopause and you don't want osteoporosis and you don't want to break your hip, you don't want to feel feeble and fragile and have a Dowager's hump and all these things. And again, it's like, do we need to go off of the fear tactics? Ultimately, say, you know, now is the time to get strong. If you're a woman who wants to to have a baby. You know, you have to be able to carry that weight. I have a 17-month-old child. He's not, I think he's less than 30 pounds. I don't know the last time we weighed him, but I'm walking around holding him. I'm a pretty strong dude. I competed on like a pretty major international level in CrossFit. I'm still in pretty good shape. And I'm carrying this child around, and I'm like, how do people not in shape do this? Because he's heavy. Like, you can move things around, but you're going to adapt some injury mechanisms. So yeah, I think my passion, and I went way off of the question a bit, but my passion and what I think about is helping people prevent and think about and change the conversation. You mentioned, you know, the conversation's changing, the language is changing around where do you want to be when you're 65? It's not enough if you understand the financial side and you've been able to save $5 million. Great. Or even $1 million, or even $100,000 for your retirement. But yeah, if you can barely move around, and if you're going to need multiple surgeries and you're going to be on multiple medications, that's kind of counterintuitive to the point. And I think I saw that, and like you said, guys like us, probably something clicked for us a long time ago, you know, and maybe we saw Arnold Schwarzenegger, or we saw Jack LaLanne, and something we're like, this is what I want to do. I want to be part of this, whatever this is, but how does it present itself? And again, it led us somewhat, spiritually, conceptually to overlap here in this physical therapy title. And I do think it's an interesting thing. I've definitely, talking to that question though, again, I graduated 2008. I tried to go out and start my own business around 2010. And the more I saw what the American Physical Therapy Association was doing, which I was very involved with as a student and passionate about it. And I'm like, I'm going to Albany from Brooklyn, and we're taking buses, and we're going to talk to the legislators and try to get them to not have as much of a Medicare cut. And you know, I've been involved in that. Nothing's changed. You know, there was Vision 2020. It's incredibly frustrating. And I know as a profession, all of that stuff is necessary. And the folks being involved with that stuff, I try to get them on here. I try to, you know, make sure their voices are heard as well, as best as I can help amplify that voice. But I know it's necessary, but I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that. I want to be able to help people the way I want to help them. And I do feel limited by the healthcare space, by this healthcare 2.0 space, by the way most physical therapists work. It's another reason. Yeah, I do put physical therapists up there when I'm, you know, doing an interview or whatever. But I've gotten to the point where, yeah, sometimes I'm like, I don't know that I want to have that term as the first thing. Kind of what you said, somebody hears personal trainer, they're like, oh, like that. And maybe it's the combination. Maybe it's the personal trainer plus physical therapy that they're like, oh, like I'm in good hands now, versus just some physical therapists who can definitely help with their knee pain, but they're like, but I want to get back to CrossFit, or I want to get back to golfing. You know, I have a TPI certification for golf, you know, the golf fitness instructor. And yeah, again, I could specialize in that. I could niche down in that. I could probably make a pretty good amount of money. Golfers love spending money on anything that'll improve their golf swing and keep them playing longer. Same thing with triathletes and all these different populations. But yeah, I'll stop rambling. But to say that again, I agree with you. I think at the heart of it, to say that I don't know that the degree is that important unless you really want to be doing a lot of the things that like you said, we got to reverse engineer what we want to do. And does that degree, is that the only thing that allows me to do that thing? And unfortunately, I don't think it is. You know, maybe dry needling, like, you know, I like doing dry needling. I find it's useful. Would I be all right if I never dry needled someone the rest of my life? Yeah, I'd be fine. You know,
I think it's one of those things where, you know, and I talk to my kids about it. My oldest son is 15. He's a freshman in high school. I've got twins that are in 7th grade, and my youngest is in 5th grade. And I talk to them about this stuff all the time. I'm like, look, you know, you don't need to go to college. It's not a requirement like it used to be. If you're going to pick a job, if you want a job, because you could have a business, if you're going to pick a job that requires licensure, then go to college and get it done. But do it as quickly and cheaply as possible, because you're going to become a great professional at whatever that job is on the job, not in a classroom. And so if somebody says, I have unlimited budget for my education and I want to work for a hospital, I want to work for a research center, I want to work in a professional setting like that, go get your DPT, get your PhD, get any of those degrees that you want. That's amazing. That's awesome. We need those people. I'm not discounting the value of those people in society, But on the flip side, when you look at the opportunities facing us into the future, so one of the podcasts that I love to watch is My First Million. I was watching them today. One of the things they were talking about was search engines. They were talking about the dominance of Google in search. And they were saying, there's DuckDuckGo and there's Bing and there's other search engines that are just fighting and trying to compete to beat Google. But you don't beat a behemoth like Google by competing against Google. You beat them by creating something different that runs parallel, that all of a sudden just completely displaces the need for Google. And so he's talking about artificial intelligence and OpenAI and how so many people now are going to OpenAI and ChatGPT to ask questions to get the information. And they're not even missing Google. They're not thinking about Google. And if they go to Google, all they get is ads and they get affiliate links and they get stuff that's not really genuine content anyway. When I look at our profession, and I'm talking our profession in terms of human performance, longevity, health, Peter, I think it's Peter Diamandis. I can never say his last name. He talks about reaching escape velocity, where at some point relatively soon, possibly in your lifetime, we're going to be able to extend the lifespan of a human faster than the person would die. So basically, if we can expand from 80 to 100, and then by the time we hit 100, we can expand to 120. And by the time we hit that, we can get to 150. I think we are uniquely positioned with our knowledge of recovery, rehabilitation, disease, pathology, and human performance to help those individuals into their 100, 110, 120th year of life. But nobody's talking about that. Everybody is still complaining about Medicare cuts, or but I said, who even cares? If Medicare raised our reimbursement rate by 5% tomorrow, by 10% tomorrow, is that going to make a material difference in anybody's life? Absolutely not. Not a single therapist, not a single business. Nobody is even going to notice that increase yet. That is going to be a massive drain on the Medicare system. That is tax dollars that's coming out of your wallet and my wallet. There's plenty of stuff that is going to impact. But if I can start looking at our profession and the people we care for and the people we help in a different way and say, how can I really help them without worrying about that stuff? Like, that's where the opportunity is. And I think that is the green pasture, the blue ocean, whatever you want to call it, that's going to move us out of the shackles of licensure and really allow us to do what we want to do to the best of our ability.
Perfectly said, Tony. Perfectly said. And that's a great place. I want to be respectful of your time and the listeners' time. Tell folks best place to find you. You got multiple sources. Is it chooseptfirst.com?
Just find me on Facebook. Look up Anthony Maritato. I'm on Facebook. I'm now on LinkedIn. So those are my two main social platforms. Always happy to answer questions. Always happy to engage and share information. Thank you for having me, Bo.
Yeah, I'm glad we could finally make this happen. We've had a few back and forths, close calls, but we finally did it. Appreciate you being on here, and looking forward to hearing more of your morning shows with
thank you,
Dave and Jimmy. And yeah, again, looking forward to what this profession can do in a few years. Hopefully, we spark some conversation one way or another, and start again elevating the rising tide. Hopefully we'll lift all ships. Not holding my breath for that, but yeah, I think we're gonna be the change we want to see in the world. And another insert extra cliche here, but yeah, hopefully folks got 1% better listening today. And on that note, we will sign off. Thank you again.